Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to this symposium. Very happy that so many of you turned up. I'm a bit worried that Zweden van Wijnbergen, one of the speakers in our first session, has not yet been seen, but that's not unusual. So it's actually fitting that this symposium is held today, because exactly 2 years ago we had the launch of the Amsterdam Institute for Global Health and Development. I didn't realize until last night, but 2 years ago many of us were sitting in the Lutherse Kerk to celebrate the opening of the institute. And like now, it was a rainy day. But anybody who's seen Midnight in Paris from Woody Allen, the most recent Woody Allen movie, knows that rain can be beautiful, not only in Paris but also in Amsterdam. The mission of the Institute is really to provide sustainable solutions to major health problems across our planet. And we try to do that by a multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary approach. And we also try to do it by trying to combine implementation in the field and research, trying to study the outcomes of various interventions. My background is HIV, so I always go back to HIV, and HIV is a very good example of what's possible. HIV was a deadly disease until the mid-90s, and then we got effective therapy, triple drug therapy, and overnight we saw an enormous decrease in mortality. These are data from the US, we've seen that everywhere. And when 10 years later, antiretrovirals were introduced in large parts of sub-Saharan Africa, we also saw dramatic improvements. And this leads me to the next slide, which is the report by the Scientific Council for the Government. That is a report on development cooperation of the Netherlands, gives a historical overview, and then also makes two statements that I find quite ridiculous. One is that we should invest less in health, and the other is that we should invest less in education. And the title of the report is Less Pretense, More Ambition, but I think for these two areas it could have been called False Pretense, No Ambition. And it's totally ridiculous. If you look at, for instance, what HIV has been doing, you see here a curve in red, you see the HIV prevalence in South Africa, and then in blue you see the TB prevalence in South Africa. And what you see is that HIV is actually driving a resurgence of tuberculosis. Now, to catch HIV, usually you have to take some trouble, go through certain procedures, maybe not if you get it via blood, but you can protect yourself usually against being HIV infected. You cannot protect yourself against being infected by TB, or you have to stop breathing. And this is also worrisome because there's quite a bit of now multi-drug resistant or extensively drug resistant TB. So not investing in HIV and in health is going to be a major threat for the world. And here you see what actually happens when you put people on effective HIV therapy. Within 6 months, the incidence of tuberculosis goes down to the levels of the uninfected population. There are more good reasons to continue to invest in health. We've come a long way. We've come a long way with combating HIV. Even The Economist, that a few years ago still wrote that it would be better to spend money on malaria than on HIV, has now had an issue that states that we need to make extra investments because we can actually end this epidemic. And this slide I show every presentation because I really love it. I think it's very fitting. All the complaints about too much money going to HIV, of course, are total nonsense because HIV was one of the areas where maybe not enough, but at least decent amounts of money were spent. But the big problem is, of course, the total under-expenditure for general health. And this is, I think, in all the talks you're going to hear today, I'm not sure that's going to pass, but this is the crucial problem of of healthcare in Africa. The first and foremost problem is that there's simply not enough money. And we're not only dealing with HIV, we're dealing also increasingly with chronic diseases. We all think, or a lot of us think, that hypertension and diabetes are diseases of the high-income countries, but in fact 80% of chronic diseases, of deaths due to chronic disease, occur in low and middle-income countries. It's a slide from a WHO report. And in all but the lowest income countries you see here, actually chronic diseases are far more important causes of death than communicable diseases. And the Lancet, the medical journal, has spoken about a tsunami of non-communicable diseases that we are witnessing. In fact, hypertension, high blood pressure, kills more people every year than HIV, TB, and malaria combined. So we cannot ignore these diseases any longer. We have another big obstacle in providing health care, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, which is the appalling shortage of health service providers. This was from a 2006 World Health Report showing in red the countries with critical shortages of health service providers. So we have not enough money, we have an increasing burden of diseases, not only communicable but also non-communicable diseases, and then we also have no people to actually deliver the health care. So huge challenges. Today we'll hopefully get some answers that at least contribute to solving some of these challenges. I think the Institute has come a long way, not in the least because of the work of the different NGOs that are part of it, like Farm Access, the Health Insurance Fund, the Investment Fund, the Medical Credit Fund. This is a slide from Kwara State where people are showing their health insurance cards, the project from the Health Insurance Fund. And this slide, of course, I have to show here, the GM SME Award for the Medical Credit Fund, where Onno and Onno Schellikens and Monique Dolfing have been instrumental. And I also show it because, although this is a symposium, supposed to be a scientific symposium, it's also a bit to put Onno and Max Kopolz in the spotlight. I think Onno has been in the spotlight here. But then also here to the right you see Max Kopolz, because Onno and Max have brought Farm Access to where it is now, and the related organizations. And they've moved on to the Investment Fund for Africa. Onno is also doing some academic work in the Institute. And this symposium is really a tribute to all the work they have done. And then I want to end with that I hope that this will be a successful and also entertaining symposium, and that it will contribute to access to high quality healthcare for all. Thank you very much.